The opening was a Sicilian Najdorf, with Vidit choosing the English attack setup. The final phase of the game saw Vidit efficiently converting his advantage, while Wei Yi made a few more errors under time pressure. Wei Yi made a few inaccurate moves in the early middle game, which allowed Vidit to gain an advantage. Vidit played a strong tactical sequence, winning a pawn and weakening Black's king position. Despite being under pressure, Wei Yi found some good defensive resources. The game remained complex in the endgame, with both players finding strong moves. Wei Yi's mistake on move 35e4 allowed Vidit to find a decisive tactical shot.
e4.
Vidit opens with the king's pawn, aiming for an open game.
c5.
Wei Yi responds with the Sicilian defense, known for its sharp and dynamic play.
Knight f3.
Developing the knight and preparing for d4.
d6.
Black prepares for a Najdorf setup.
d4.
White challenges the center immediately.
C takes d4.
Black accepts the challenge, opening the c file.
Knight takes d4. Knight f6.
Developing the knight and preparing for e5.
Knight c3.
White develops naturally and supports e4.
a6.
The Najdorf variation, this flexible move prepares e5 and b5.
Bishop e3.
Vidit chooses the English attack setup, aiming for a kingside assault.
e5.
Wei Yi immediately challenges the knight and gains space in the center.
Knight f3.
Retreating to a more active square and maintaining pressure on e5.
Bishop e7.
Developing the bishop and preparing to castle.
Bishop c4.
An interesting choice by Vidit. This puts pressure on the f7 square and prepares for a potential sacrifice on e6.
Bishop e6.
Wei Yi responds by covering f7 and challenging the bishop.
Bishop b3.
Maintaining the pressure on e6 without allowing an exchange.
Short castle.
Black completes development on the king side.
Short castle.
White also castles, completing basic development.
Queen c8.
A typical Najdorf move, preparing b5 and potentially b4 to attack on the queen side.
a4.
Vidit prevents Black's queenside expansion, particularly b5.
Knight bd7.
A bit passive, knight-ghtc6 was more natural, developing with tempo on e5.
Knight h4.
An odd move, the knight isn't particularly effective on h4, and it gives Black time to strengthen his position. Bishop d2 or rook e1 were more natural continuations.
g6.
Wei Yi secures his king side, but weakens the dark squares slightly.
Knight f3.
Vidit realizes his mistake and brings the knight back.
Knight c5.
Somewhat inconsistent with the previous knight b to d7, Black is spending too many tempi reorganizing.
Bishop g5.
Missing a chance to exploit Black's awkward piece placement, knight d5 would have been very strong here, threatening knight take e6.
Rook d8.
A serious mistake. This allows a powerful tactical sequence and loses a pawn.
Bishop takes f6.
Vidit doesn't miss his chance this time. This move exploits the pin on the e-file.
Bishop takes f6.
Forced, as queen take f6 would lose to knight d5.
Knight d5.
Strong knight outpost, threatening knight take f6 and e6.
Knight takes b3.
Wei Yi tries to relieve some pressure by exchanging pieces.
Knight takes f6 check.
Vidit continues his attack, further weakening black's king position.
King g7.
The best move in a difficult position, avoiding immediate disaster.
Knight h5 check.
Excellent tactical vision by Vidit. This forces further weakening of black's king side.
G takes h5.
Forced, taking with the king would be even worse.
C takes b3.
White has won a pawn and shattered black's kingside structure.
f6.
Wei Yi tries to secure his king, but this further weakens the light squares.
Knight h4.
Eyeing the weakened kingside light squares, particularly f5.
d5.
Wei Yi strikes back in the center, trying to generate counterplay.
Rook c1.
Vidit increases pressure on the c-file.
Queen d7.
Wei Yi finds the best defensive setup, covering e6 and preparing king h6.
E takes d5.
Vidit opens the position, which is generally good for the side with the initiative.
Queen takes d5.
Inaccurate. Bishop take d5 was better, maintaining more tension and avoiding the coming attack.
Rook c7 check.
A powerful rook invasion, exploiting black's weak back rank.
King h6.
The only move to stay in the game, sidestepping queen h5 checkmate.
Queen c1 check.
Vidit keeps up the pressure, eyeing c6 and h6.
Queen d2.
Wei Yi is forced to block with his queen, leading to a forced exchange.
Rook takes b7.
Winning another pawn and maintaining the initiative.
Queen takes e1.
Wei Yi finds the best defensive resource, forcing an exchange of queens to relieve some pressure.
Rook takes c1. Rook ac8.
Black activates his rook, hoping for some counterplay on the c-file.
Rook e1.
Vidit protects e2 and eyes the e-file.
Rook c6.
Wei Yi defends the 6th rank and prepares to double rooks.
b4.
Vidit begins pushing his queenside pawns, creating a potential passed pawn.
Rook d2.
Black's rook invades, threatening white's pawns.
b5.
Continuing to push the passed pawn.
A takes b5.
Wei Yi is forced to capture, opening the file.
Rook takes b5. Bishop c4.
A good defensive move, pinning the b5 rook to prevent immediate pawn promotion.
Rook b7.
Both players are maneuvering precisely in a complex position.
Bishop A6.
An excellent move, maintaining the pin and protecting the 7th rank.
Rook A7.
Vidit keeps pressing, threatening to win the pawn.
Bishop D3.
Wei Yi continues his active defense.
B4.
Going forward another passed pawn.
Rook C2.
Black doubles rooks on the 2nd rank, creating serious threats.
Rook D7.
Vidit defends against Black's threats and maintains pressure.
Rook E2.
Wei Yi targets the e-pawn.
Rook F1.
Defending F2 and eyeing F6.
E4.
A critical mistake in time pressure. This weakens the F for square and allows a decisive tactical shot.
Knight F5 check.
Vidit seizes his chance with this powerful fork.
King G6.
Forced.
Knight E3.
Missing a stronger continuation, Knight H for check, would have been crushing.
Rook A2.
Wei Yi counterattacks, targeting the pawn.
A5.
Vidit pushes his passed pawn.
Rook EB2.
Black doubles rooks on the B file, creating threats.
Rook E1.
Defending E4 and threatening to win Black's e-pawn.
Rook takes F2.
Wei Yi wins a pawn back, but his position remains precarious.
H3.
Creating luft for the king and preventing any back rank issues.
F5.
Wei Yi tries to close the king side, but it's too late.
Rook D6 check.
A strong check, forcing the black king to move.
King G7.
A blunder in severe time pressure, allowing a decisive tactic.
Rook C1.
Vidit finds the winning move. The threat of Rook C7 check, followed by Rook D7 check, is decisive.
King F8.
Trying to escape, but it's too late.
Rook C7. King E8. Rook B6. King D8. Rook takes H7.
Winning another pawn and maintaining the mating net.
King C8.
A final mistake in a lost position.
Rook G6.
A dominating position for white. Black resigned, as mate is unavoidable. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.